Well, can you hear me, Graham? Can everyone hear me? People, deluded. I'm back again. Here with the tactical mastermind, the tactical genius, the analytical king. Graham, how you doing, man? I'm happy to have you, man. How you doing?
My bro, mate, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're fine, man. I think everyone else can hear you as well. You're cushy.
Yeah, apologies for being slightly late, mate. So great to be back on with you again, mate. You know, I love meeting up with you once a month and having our chats. You know, you continue to smash out great content on your channel. So I do follow your channel, mate.
I appreciate that, man.
I'm looking forward to today, seeing what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, man. I mean, for anyone who don't know, I'm gonna ask you on, your top 4 to top 6 chances. We have to go over AUBAMEYANG and the transfer market. But the actual first thing I want to ask you before we get into all of the gossip and all the other stuff, what have you made to the start of the year, man? It's been a bit of a sobering one, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah, I think Arsenal fans always used to say that November was our poor month. I think January's turned into our November, hasn't it?
Really is a dry January.
Really was a dry January. Only one goal, more red cards than goals in a month.
Wow.
And it's typical, I think, the way Arsenal are at the moment, inconsistency, deluded, really. A brilliant performance against Man City. Whatever people say about the result, I thought that was a superb performance when I thought every 50-50 went against us. I thought that
Facts.
No Arteta on the sidelines as well. But I thought that was a fantastic performance by the team that day, really unlucky to lose. So I thought from that, I thought everything was set up well for the month. And then we went and absolutely ruined it by the performance at Nottingham Forest the following week. I question the team selection. The way the players went into that game, the attitude was all wrong. The team selection was wrong for me. And I thought the FA Cup, which has been so really good to Arteta, is one of the reasons why he's got time in the job was the FA Cup win.
Facts.
So I thought that really was a real letdown following the Man City performance. Then we went away to Liverpool, went down to 10 men early when Xhaka does what only Xhaka can do.
Exactly.
And then for 70 minutes, we defended like Trojans and got a 0-0 draw. Fantastic back-to-the-wall performance. Really showed character to get a 0-0. I never thought we'd beat Liverpool over 2 legs. I think even without Salah and Mane, deluded. I thought we got slightly complacent. We thought we'd done the job at Anfield and we were just going to roll up and turn them over at the Emirates. That was never going to happen because even without Salah and Mane, they're a real top side. I mean, they've got the back five was there.
Still had Jota to call upon, and he's taken over the mantelpiece from Salah of being the guy that embarrasses us, really.
Yeah, he's got a fantastic record, hasn't he, against Arsenal, Jota? And I think he's been one of the players of the season for me. I think that there'd been an argument that he would be in the Premier League 11 of the season so far. He's been fantastic, hasn't he? And I thought he was superb on the night. I think you did see, though, for all that, the fact that the players in the lead up to the game, because we called it off the previous week because we were struggling to get a team out, players were brought back who clearly weren't fit. I mean, it was showed in the goal. Tomiyasu this season has been probably one of the standout players in the team for me. And
Facts.
The way he allowed Jota to go past him on the inside, I know he slipped, but he didn't look up to it the whole game. And I don't think Jota would have got past him had he been fit. So that was obviously... he wasn't the only one. I think 3 or 4 players like Odegaard, Saka, Smith Rowe, they hadn't trained in the week. So they weren't 100% going into that game. And I thought, we lost. We didn't have a central midfield presence because Xhaka and Partey weren't fit. So we had to go in with a different midfield setup. And playing against Liverpool's midfield, whatever you say, they've got quality midfielders, even without Thiago. I think it was missing. I think Fabinho played in midfield. I think you still had Henderson and Curtis Jones, isn't it? He's a top young talent. Even with Ox out as well, I still think they had more options in central midfield than us. So, and they had Jota up front, and Firmino is not a bad player either. So it's not as Salah and Mane were missing, probably Thiago, but the rest of the team was there. I think they're a lot stronger than us anyway, and they proved too strong on the night. And then, of course, after that, we go into the next performance against Burnley, which showed really where we are lacking as a team, I thought, and that is in central midfield, number 6 position. Sambi struggled in that role, I thought, on that day.
Big shocker.
I don't think he's a single pivot, Deluded. I think
He's not. At
No.
this moment in time, his confidence is on the floor. He looks like a dog that just needs to be rubbed on the back of his head.
Yeah.
I kind of feel sorry for him because when I look at Edu and Arteta's comments, they always sit there and say, Graham, that he's playing more than he should, he's playing more than he should, and that's good for him. But we need to protect our players. As you know, young players go through moments of form where they're unstoppable. Started the year almost, I won't say he's unstoppable, but he was doing a lot better than now. And I think this is why we needed to buy midfielders so that we can pull players like that out of the squad. I think he has a lot of quality, but right now he's feeling sorry for himself. And as you can see, it's the business end. This is the one time where we haven't got time for that, man.
Yeah, and I think this is something we can talk about in a minute, the business end of the season, where you're expecting young players to get you over the line into a top 4. I think that's why we were fall short, because I think it's asking a lot of young players when the pressure on to deliver a top 4 finish. And there'll be other reasons, the lack of depth in the squad and the fact that we're down to 17 players, outfield players, is another reason. But just coming back to that midfield argument, I think if you remember, Deluded, at the start of the season, it wasn't Arteta, it was Edu. I saw the interview with him, and he turned around and said, he said there's no central midfield targets. We decided that our midfield pairing for the year was going to be central midfield was going to be Granit Xhaka, who had a history of ill discipline, and Thomas Partey, who basically at that time there was fitness concerns about him anyway. So that they decided they weren't going to buy another central midfield player, a quality midfield player. They would get in Lokonga as backup to learn and only come in when required, right? That was a massive risk. And I think it's really hurt the team at this period when we, if we weren't going to go out in this window and buy another central midfielder, and the odds are, I don't know if they had targets. It didn't look like they had it for central midfield. I think it's come back to bite them in the arse, because basically you've been playing. Lokonga's been playing almost like they've had to shift the team around into a 4-3-3 shape with 2 number 8s next to a number 6, which wasn't how they were playing when the team was playing really well. And Lokonga was the 6, and he's good in a 2 next to Thomas Partey, but he's not good as the main man in a
facts.
To ask a young guy like that to create everything for your forward players was enormous pressure on him, and I think it was too much for him, and so he struggled in those games. So and then the other problem that game, just to come back to quickly, was up front where we haven't been scoring goals. We got AUBAMEYANG obviously had fallen out of favour. He'd only got 4 league goals in the season. LACAZETTE had only scored 3, 2 from open play, and Nketiah hadn't scored all season, albeit he hadn't in minutes in the Premier League. He's only got 50
minutes in the league, I think. So.
Yeah, but he's only got 5 goals for us in 43 Premier League games.
This is it. So he's never. For me, that's where I feel one thing our club do. We put people in inevitably positions they can't fill. Respectfully, I know Eddie's a young player, but he's clearly not cut up of the set cloth required, and he's struggled there. I think we're playing a dangerous game, relying on Lacazette. For all Lacazette gives you, him and AUBAMEYANG 2 goals. I mean, him and Eddie 2 goals between them. It's not exactly match winners, are there? And the young players, as you said, they're going through good and bad moments. It's kind of naive for me with these 7 and 18 games to rely on a lot. I just hope we look back at this period, and it's in that Amazon documentary how Dubai galvanized us and we went on and done great things, because I feel it's a missed opportunity. I wanted to ask you, do you feel the club are kind of scared to get 4th sort of thing? Because I think many other clubs would have looked at this and said, if you react in January, you could give yourself a boost. It looks like we're getting a bit complacent and to a degree almost assuming top 6 is a certainty for me, in my opinion.
I can't answer that question. I don't know if they've got complacent. I think they went into this window. Obviously, they had their main target. Vlahovic was the main target. And they spent a lot of time courting Vlahovic, and they couldn't get that one over the line. That's a fact, obviously, because he went to Juve. His agent and he played a very clever game.
Played a blind.
Yeah. And then I think they were interested in Isaac. Is it Isaac or Isaac?
Yeah, Isaac, yeah.
Isaac, yeah. They were interested in Isaac. But I don't think he's worth, they decided he wasn't worth the £75 million release clause. So they bid what they thought he was worth. I think I agree with a lot of what I've heard and what I've seen of him. I do think he's a good player, but I don't think he's worth £75 million. So
Yeah, at this moment in time, I agree.
yeah, not at this moment in time. His record of goal scoring this season, something like 4 goals in the season, isn't great. So I know he's got a good relationship with Odegaard when they worked together at Sociedad, and he's a good footballer, but I don't think he's worth that sort of money. So they made that bid what they thought he was worth. That was rejected. So they couldn't get their primary target. So they decided not to. There was no one out there good enough, really, who they could
Where
bring
you at
in.
with that? Sorry to cut you. Where are you at with that? Because I feel that statement, I'm on two hands. On one hand, I agree. There's no point buying for the sake of it. And then, as you've seen, Arsenal have to do a lot. But at the same time, I feel there needs to be a plan and then a plan for the plan. We know we're Arsenal Football Club at this moment. If we can't get top targets, we're just an option. So surely there should be plan Bs, plan Cs and whatnot. Ultimately, we've ended the window without anything. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think the plan was to get Vlahovic, then go for Isaac. I think then they decided, well, we can't get better than what we've got. But I think what they should have done really is I think they should have looked around and got a loan deal in to tie us over to the summer because we are incredibly short. If Lacazette was to pull a hamstring,
God forbid, we're in trouble.
I mean, we're literally. It's okay saying with this 11 we've got, if, the players we've shipped out are all players that weren't part of the project anyway. We wanted to get them, a lot of them dead. Well, we got them off the books. Chambers was obviously the one that came as a bit of a surprise. I think the one that they might regret is Maitland-Niles because I think that it's all well having promises to footballers, but at the end of the day, you've got to look after your club.
Look after yourself, vested interest. Your interest is to get Arsenal where it needs to be. You can't agree, you can't really care about what Ainsley wants.
Yeah, definitely. So, look, I wouldn't say they've been complacent. I just think that they haven't been able to get the deals they wanted. They obviously had some plan B. I've no idea what they had lined up midfield wise. I could go by you hear different stories on social media every day. So
it looked like after Melo was done, and then it looked like it was, and then the board
yeah,
said
it does
no
look,
for whatever reason.
Yeah, it does look like they were pursuing. There was interest in after Melo, but basically they couldn't get the deal done because they wanted. They didn't want an 18 month deal, did they? They wanted a short-term deal. So because they couldn't get what they wanted, they left it. And it's all right as long as you're looking at your first 11, thinking, yeah, they're the 11 players who've got us into the top 4, and if they all stay fit, that gives us a chance. But I think that you're putting a lot of pressure on young players like Saka and Smith Rowe.
Not really fair for me.
And Martinelli, and there's very little scope and there's very little to bring in. So I don't think they were complacent about getting top 4. I think they've always seen this as a long-term project. I think they're ahead of where they were. But I think this could go down, Deluded, is a real missed opportunity because a bit like in 2015-16 where we didn't buy an outfield player. We didn't buy an outfield player and that cost us the league that year. I think had Wenger gone out and bought an outfield player and he only bought Petr Cech, goalkeeper, we probably would have won the league because Man United, a bit like now, Man United, that they're in at that time they were struggling post Ferguson. Chelsea weren't doing well at the time. Liverpool weren't where they were now. Even Man City were having a poor season, and
to take advantage.
Yeah, so we had a great chance here to win the league, and we didn't take it because we didn't get the right signings in. And then a bit like this season, we've got a fantastic chance of getting top 4. We're only playing one game a week.
One game, I think, in February. I could be wrong. We ain't got many games now.
No, many of our rivals are playing more than that. So this was the chance, wasn't it? And we haven't been able to get the business done. And so in effect, we're leaving ourselves in a position where I think that really I can't see us getting top 4. I think because I think Man United are coming again. I think I expect them to get top 4. Same. Tottenham have got Conte in place who's improving them, and they have added 2 players in the window. I think realistically, we'll finish in the top 6. Now that if we drop below that, there's going to be so much pressure on Arteta, no matter what the club think, because from going from top 4 and not even finishing in the top 6 is going to be a massive blow to the fans and to the club. So look, the one thing I will say is we've always slagged Arsenal off in the past for going out and buying the wrong players. So they're saying this time we're making sure we're getting the right players. So it'd be a bit churlish to absolutely criticise them entirely to say if you can't get the right players, go out and buy players just for players' sake. But the other thing you've got to remember, Deluded, just one final point here. If we don't get top 6 at least and get in the Europa, top 4 obviously is what we want. But if we don't get back into Europe, when you go in the summer, I don't care what Arteta says. When Arsenal come knocking, it's a different question, he says. But
Naive, very naive.
You won't get your targets if you're not in Europe. Most players at least want to play in Europe, if not the Champions League. So if you can't even offer European football and you've waited around and not done any business, then fallen away in the second half of the season, not achieve European football, you're going to find it really hard to get the targets in the summer.
And that's where I'm at, in the sense of, clearly, the goal was we'd like top 4. We realistically is top 6, but I just feel you have a chance of, provided this done properly, accelerating the progress. And there's no process better yet, and there's no guarantee that other teams are not going to get stronger. And we know we're at that point where we've moved away from being a traditional top 4 team. Now we're in and amongst the pack, and I think that could have given us a platform, like you said rightly. So half the time we're linked with players, they say Champions League, even if they, as much as it kills me to say, don't think that highly of Arsenal, at least they could think, I could come here for a few years. There's Champions League. I've got a platform. You're hearing probably a bit of agent talk, but you're hearing Saka already. City and Liverpool are looking at him. They've got Champions League. I'm sure when he goes off to England duty, they speak about it. And I just think it would be a missed chance. I mean, if you get top 6, people would probably accept that, but there's an opportunity, and this is where I struggle to really see ambition. And I don't know where you look at it. Maybe I was naive, considering we spent 150 million. We did try to get Vlahovic, so I assume there must have been money available. But somehow I think when I hear Arteta's going to America, they're not doing the Arthur Melo deal. Was there even finances? Was it probably naive to expect, on top of spending 150 million, that even though we only wanted to address 2 areas, that something was going to happen?
Well, I think they must have had the money, or had a way to find the money if they were going to get Vlahovic and pay that money. They must have had it, because they even got to the stage where they were talking to his agent, so they were serious. So they must have had the money. I think the money's there. I think they've done it really by getting players' wages off the books. I mean, I think the plan was always probably to get Aubameyang off the books. That's £29 million in wages they've saved for the rest of the season. Although I think in the structure of the deal, I think we're still paying some of it. We're still paying some of it
up front as well to him.
Yeah, but they've got a lot of money off the books in wages. So there must have been money there. I mean, there's a joke going around. My mate was saying that Arteta was out there meeting the Cronkies to negotiate his contract. But
probably was. He probably was, man. That's probably as high up on the Arsenal's list as Bukayo Saka's new deal.
Yeah, and the Cronkies, Cronkies seem more interested in their American franchises than they do in Arsenal, don't they? That you can, So, but for all that, I think the money was there. I think if they could have got their targets, Vlahovic was one, and possibly if they could have done the deal with Arthur Melo, that would have been another one that they would have done had they got the opportunity. I think it's always difficult to do deals in January. I think you have to say that, because although it is, whatever you think, and I know some clubs have done good business. Newcastle have done really well. Aston Villa have done well.
Superb.
Yeah, so some clubs have done good business, and we've done good business in the past in January. It was for all that a very poor January window for Arsenal, and coming on the back of a poor month footballing wise, obviously it made it even worse, didn't it? Because
the optimism,
and it sort of kills you inside, because you just want, like all fans, you just want your club to sign players, don't you? And they haven't been able to do that. But as I said, I mean, there's no point signing the wrong player. I do think on the forward line, though, we've left ourselves really light. And I think to pin your hopes on 2 players in the last year of their contract, the last few months of their contract, albeit Lac has been really professional this year. And it's been brilliant in his off the work ball and his hold up play and all that, where he's not scoring as much as we'd like. To pin your hopes on 2 players like Lacazette and Nketiah who are struggling to score goals, I think is a massive risk. I think they should have tried to get someone in on loan at least up front. I think the 2 areas we left light, possibly, we haven't addressed the centre mid issue, but we're down to 3 centre halves now, aren't we? Just holding,
crazy, man.
White and Gabriel, and you're just praying that White and Gabriel stay fit. And then we're down to just 2 strikers. I know you can play Martinelli down the middle. They might even go with that option of playing Martinelli down the middle should Lacazette get injured. But Martinelli's been really good wide left. And that's possibly one of the reasons in my mind where they were happy to sanction the move for Aubameyang to go away. You know,
We've
to
got
go to
some balance
Barcelona.
there as well now.
You know, albeit he had fallen out with Arteta, and when you fall out with Arteta, there seems no way back now. You know, I'm not a massive anti-Arteta person, but one thing worries me is the way when he falls out of players,
That's
there's
it.
very little man management. There's very little comeback. They just jettisoned out of the club just like that.
Gone.
And
One chance, you're gone.
so that's a bit of a worry for me. But as I say, I mean, just coming back to your original question, I don't think they've been complacent. I just don't think they got the right deals over the line, and they decided, you know, we're not going to bring in players who are worse than what we got.
Would you say they're being naive then? Because again, like you, I cut them a lot of sympathy. It's not easy to do business. You want the right players. Variables can change, but as you know, on a football pitch, it's results business. And I'm a bit more biased towards putting this thing at Edu because that's your job. I feel we're in a very scary situation in that I don't really feel comfortable having an inexperienced manager and a technical director. I think you do one of the two so they can balance each other out. And this is where Edu's got to earn his bacon. I mean, if you're not being given finances by Kroenkes, if you're agreeing deals and they're saying no, fair play. But it just feels like the last couple of windows, credit for the summer, I feel last year, if I go on Google, I'll see the same comments about the market is complicated. It's this, it's that, the third. If I be naive, Newcastle were getting rejected from players left, right, and centre. They still ended the window with decent business. We all love to see Spurs, and I see you retweet all the time when Spurs get rejected by players. They still addressed something. With us, fair play. I don't want the wrong players in, but we've come out the window looking a bit light. Like, I'm not Cedric's biggest fan. I'm hoping you do not get injured because Tomiyasu, there's a problem there with his fitness now, you know, so we need him to be fit. You made a great point about three centre halves. A blind man could see we need to address midfield, and it's not pretty talking about up front. So do you think maybe we've been naive because we knew what we needed to do from the summer? In the summer, it was all Tammy Abraham and Martinez. This what time it's been Vlahovic, you know. Again, as much as we hear they went for Vlahovic, we hear that, you know, as deep as October, he wasn't answering the phone or the agents weren't answering the phone. So if I'm cynical, are we going for players that we know have no interest to say we tried? Ultimately, you don't really get points for trying in life. Really?
If I just take you, I think part of the problems they've had though is that they've been handicapped by all the crap that's gone on in the past. So
Inherited problems, 100%.
all the deals we've done in the past. If you go back to Gazetta and Wenger, and it's not great when you keep letting players go. You know, you buy them in, and you get no sell-on value, and you get nothing back. You can't. That's unsustainable as a football club.
Facts.
Albeit in this modern world where players have got that ability to run down their contracts. But the problem was last summer we had to get rid of Lacazette and Nketiah. That was the time we had to move them on. Now, if they don't want to go, that's your problem. When you put, so I go back to what I was alluding to there, and that is if you put players on massive wages with massive contracts for 4 or 5 years, you're stuck with them.
And so living costs as well.
That's what they're up against. So when I do blame Edu, you mentioned Edu specifically there. I do blame Edu for certain things, but it's not his fault. These players were put on massive contracts,
inheriting problems,
and you can't sell them on, and they don't want to go, do they? So they're looking after themselves. They're doing what any person would do in any walk of life. They're just looking after themselves in their industry. So that's the problem. They couldn't move these players on. The Nketiah thought he was bigger than Crystal Palace when this season we've seen
personal terms. Yep, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Crystal Palace is about, you know, I don't think the way Palace are at the moment, will we be good enough to get into that Palace?
I think he's doing them a favour. I think with Eddie Nketiah, without knowing him personally, I think maybe it's because we've had mediocre players in and around the first team. I think he's got an overinflated sense of his ability. He's been half the teams he's linked with. He's not going to lead the line for them. Newcastle, Brighton, you mentioned Palace. You could be part of the squad. And if to be fair, I don't blame him for running down this deal because if I was him, Arteta's voices and words don't mean much because you can keep bigging me up in the press conferences. I've played 50 minutes in the league. My last start is April. So if you do want me to stay, that doesn't look like it. And again, I think Arteta knows in his heart for what he says. I can't start him right now. If I have to bet anyone, it's Lacazette to the end of the season, with the exception of Martinelli. And that's what scares me because, as you said, we knew he was getting into this. As you said, if we can't move players on, it is what it is. But it just feels like we're very in the wrong sort of word. We're very reactive. It's like we have one plan. The dynamic might shift. It's like, you know, midfield is always contingent on is Xhaka going to Italy or not in the last few windows.
Yeah, if Nketiah wants to pick up more minutes, he should be burying headed chances from about 2 yards. I can't get past
Yep.
You know, I have nightmares. Whenever I think of Eddie Nketiah, I think of that chance against Everton when we were 1-1, could have gone back in the lead in that game,
Yep.
when he had a headed chance from 2 yards out and he hit the post. And then the other massive chance he missed against Forest in the cup, when Saka put it on a plate for him from about 5-10 yards. So if you got an inflated ego of what you are actually think you are, put the fucking ball in the net from 2 yards. You know what I mean? So and he's missed 2 chances. I can't get away from that headed chance. I had nightmares thinking about that chance he missed
I
against
can't
Everton.
either, man. That's bread and butter for a striker. 5 yards
It
out.
is absolute bread and butter. And I think that, to be honest with you, he's not good enough for Arsenal Football Club, and I want him moved on myself. But the problem is, you can't move him on at the moment the way where we are if you're not going to bring people in. And we're stuck with Eddie at the moment to the end of his contract, and it is what it is. His level really is Championship, I believe.
Even that, he hasn't proven he's done it in the Championship.
Yeah,
He's not got a
no, not
prolific
the least,
record
no.
in senior football at all, really. And that's the problem. It's like, for me, again, Eddie could leave with his head held high, one FA Cup, things like that. Other clubs are not going to get free money, walk out the window. Like, I have a problem seeing obviously things have to be done, but seeing sustainability, it's almost like this theme is we're giving new contracts with Willian and Aubameyang, and then we're tearing them up. We're letting Aubameyang walk for free. As you mentioned with Wenger and Glazides, this, as much as I think Arteta and Eddie have self-inflicted issues, it's a culture of this club. You know, we've let Ramsey go, Alexis go, even down to Ainsley. You could have sold him for 20 million, you didn't, and you know he's gonna have a year left in the summer. I don't know if you can get decent money for him. It's very reactive and quite baffling at times, really.
Yeah, we've done. I mean, I can think back a few years ago, the year we sold Giroud. We got 15 million for Giroud, and Liverpool got 29 million for Solanke.
This is it.
You know, some of the deals we did were poor. Some of the income, I think when David Dean was at the club, I'll go back a bit further than you. When David Dean was at the club, when George Graham was, even when Wenger came, David Dean used to get the deals over the line for Wenger. You know, the Pires deal and all those sort of deals were done with David Dean. Wenger, towards the end of his reign, starting off around the Xhaka, the Mustafi time, the Kolasinac time.
You had no one to pull him away from his
we started recruiting poor footballers. Wenger also always loved footballing centre halves. He didn't love great defenders. They had to be ball playing centre halves. And to be fair, now ball playing defenders are part of modern football. But we didn't address the issues in our defence. We haven't had a proper defence. I spoke to Chris Hudson, who I know for AFTV, who, like me, goes back a long time. He said to me that this Arsenal defence this season, the first time we've had a decent defence since 2006. You know, 100%. And that's how poor the buys in defence have been over the years. You know,
and the culture towards defending. Like, is it any coincidence the centre back since Tony Adams hasn't come through? And when defenders do come through, 9 times out of 10, it's fullbacks that weren't exactly fullbacks coming through the academy. They've just found a job there. We don't respect the art of defending. That's one thing I give Arteta, and his problems are more so the middle and the final third now, if I'm real.
Yeah, so we just made bad deals over the years that have left us in this position where we're having to move players out for nothing. And we're having to keep players at the end of their contracts, and you know they are trying to address this now. So give them credit for that. So as much as we criticise them for certain things, give them credit. They are trying to move in the right direction now. But we're paying for all this bad business and bad recruitment in the past, and that's what I feel about it. But I think, just coming back to your main point, I think they haven't been able to get the deals over the line. And they've decided that we're not going to, if it means we can't get to top 4, so be it, but we're not going to sort of go back to buying who we don't want. We've got to think more long term, and that's what I think they think.
That's what makes sense to me, and I like that. But the only thing I would say to that is, again, as much as I like their writing there, everyone makes mistakes. I just would look at Edu and Arteta and say, okay, that's cool. You know, there were some things you inherited, but then I look at the Marie. You could see he wasn't good enough, and the games played to money spent. Williams deal, where we all knew, obviously a lot of fans didn't want Ramsdale, so fans don't always want players, but we all could see William wasn't going to work out. I'm not going to be hypocritical because I wanted Aubameyang to sign the deal, and all we heard was the metrics. He's still performing despite whatever happened, but something's happened from now till then. So it's almost like everyone makes mistakes, but it's almost like they're feeling that they're quite costly, and I just feel there's an element of self-inflicting problems with us with what we do. What do you make of the whole Aubameyang scenario, anyways? Because we've touched on it indirectly. We've never quite got at it. You know, the man's left now, just shy of 100 goals. It is what it is now. He's gone bar. So where are you at with that?
Do you know what? I'm still coming to terms with it. Do you know what? I loved Aubameyang.
I had a tear about it.
And I think he carried the team for 2 years. People forget that he won us the FA Cup, and with his goals in the final and the semi-final, the Charity Shield, that fantastic goal, his goal scoring in the first 2 years, and you know, and also he played with a smile on his face. He was
larger than life.
He larger than life character. I think it started going downhill for him when COVID came and he started playing to empty stadiums because he loves playing to the crowd.
Yeah, he's a showman.
The only thing that disappointed me, and you could argue that he's slightly on the wane, and he was because he's 32, and we'll see how he gets on at Barcelona now. True. But why couldn't Arteta get a tune out of him when Emery could? And that's the funny thing about it for me, because Emery had him playing on the left as well as like Arteta did, but he couldn't do it in the way Arteta wants to play. What he did for under Emery, I think. You know, I'm not trying to build Emery up to be anything special. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I'm a massive Emery fan. You know, I don't sort of like some people, Emery in, Emery out, Arteta in, Arteta out. I'm not that type of guy.
You're just an Arsenal fan, what we should be.
He's an Arsenal fan, and I just look at my opinion of what I see. But I did notice that Emery built his teams around the players he had, whereas Arteta puts his team in the structure that he wants. And that's the difference. So it works in certain ways, but it clearly didn't work with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So, and when I look back now and I see the goals he scored, the celebrations, you know, and I'm thinking I'm going to miss all that. Do you know what I mean? And I know he's been not doing it so much, but there have been some great moments this season. His link-up play with Smith Rowe that's led to 2 goals. The goal he scored against Tottenham with his left foot.
The way he played against the pressing, the intensity.
The weird thing was that Arteta early in the season was praising him for the way he's now adapted to this new role. Facts. And yet 2 months later, he was fast tracking him out of the team, albeit we don't know the full extent of what went on behind the scenes. So, and there was talk that he was always a problem player, even in his Dortmund days. But how am I with it? You know, I look at the Arsenal team now, and as I say, this is probably the weakest front line I can remember since about the early 1980s. And that's just a fact.
Before I was even a thing in this world, yeah. That's crazy.
I wanted him, to be honest with you, I wanted him integrated back into the team. I really did.
Same.
And at the very least, for him to be available if we were in trouble and we needed him. And to go from club captain and out the door just like that just seems madness, doesn't it? So where am I with it? I'm really sad about it. And it hit me when I woke up today, actually, that he's gone. You know, when I see him, had Barcelona announced him, by the way?
Yeah, they've announced him. He had his press conference. It's gone, man. I had a little tear when he left. I was watching all his goals, man. I was like,
he was training, right? And he hadn't even been announced. There was pictures of him training with the team. He hadn't even been announced by the club. So, you know, and when I see him in the Barcelona kit, it hurt me. I've got to be honest with you. It did. I was there when his first game against Everton, when he scored on his debut.
Oh, magic!
He leaves me with a lot of great memories. I think he's probably some people might disagree with this, and I'll put it out to your subscribers in the chat. You tell me.
Let us know your opinions, people, of what Graham's about to say.
I would say he's our best forward since Henry. Would you disagree?
I mean, I think statistically I agree. It's just I don't want to say the guy's name because he was injury hit for a while, but he gave us 2 very superb seasons.
I
Probably,
think,
but
look, he's the fastest Arsenal player to 50 goals, wasn't he?
And he scored some decisive ones as well.
And some decisive ones, and he won us 2 trophies. I count the Community Shield as a trophy. I know some people don't, but you know, for me, I think he's one of our greatest ever forwards, albeit in a short. He's only
one of the best Emirates signings, without
definitely the best Emirates signings. Then whatever you want to say, but I loved Aubameyang, and I'm slightly biased. I loved him at Dortmund, to be honest.
I love the Bambi, and I think, in terms of Emirates signings, I would say him, Alexis Sanchez. I know I'm going to get a lot of heat in the comments, but on his day, I know he didn't do it too many times, but Mesut Ozil was a joy to watch, and that's the thing about Aubameyang. I think a lot of people were quite disrespectful to him in the way he was out, and you made a great point. I feel when it's Arsenal, there's a lot of agendas. There's a lot of agendas to ensuring Arteta isn't the man or Arteta is the man, and that decides where people stand on things. And then there's the grey area of what simply is the truth. And I guess we'll never know. We'll never know of Aubameyang. One thing I did like is, I think people said he's a money grabber. He's got no passion and these things. He took a flight by himself. He started training before it was announced. He forced the move through. He took a massive pay cut. This doesn't strike me as someone who doesn't care. And it made me feel like, even Willian, I'm not praising Willian. It's like, why are players so desperate they sign, they speak about being in love, and then they're so desperate to get out that they'll forego money. They just want to get out of it. So what is going on? As much as I criticize these players, especially Willian, what's going on here? Right, really?
Yeah, did you see that comment by Adebayor last week when he
Yeah,
got
I mean, he's still hurt about it, everything, man. He loves us, really, man.
Yeah, I know he's got a bit of beef with us, and after how it ended, but I do think that possibly there's a little bit of truth in that. That albeit I think his was self-inflicted, but yeah, it's just the way it ended. It was. I just can't believe he's gone. I'll be honest with you, because never saw it. Never saw it at all.
I never saw it ended like this. I went and looked at his comments the other day about wanting to be an Arsenal legend. I'm happy at the club. I started looking at Edu's and Arteta's, how he's so important. So it's like, you lot, one of you has to tell us exactly what happened, what actually happened between you lot. Because I'm starting to feel now, is it one of them, like in the place of work, where there might be someone who's difficult to work with, who's a bit unorthodox, but he just gets results. He or she just gets results. So you can't really say anything. You need them. The minute it stops happening, is that where Arteta's patience is thin? I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know where I'm at with it.
The only thing I will say, mate, is that it was a really classy post he put on Instagram, the way he left.
Another tip for one.
I respect him for that, and I did get quite emotional reading it, actually. So, look, I look back with a great deal of pleasure on him at Arsenal Football Club. I'm so proud that he played for our club, and I'm so great that I actually see him play in the stadium. And, when you're in the stadium, you see things, the way his movement that you don't see on the TV. I just think it's a real pleasure to watch him play, and I've got great memories of his performances for Arsenal, and I'll always have that. And his goals will always be there, won't they, for you to watch on social media. And as sad it is, he's gone. I mean, the players come and go. Players always come and go. I think we have to accept that.
The coldest ends.
We buy in for life as fans, but players come and go. Another great player who's played for Arsenal, and some great memories he leaves. And I wish him all the best at Barcelona.
I mean, for me, it's just like with Alexis Sanchez, completely different. But the saying, the hottest loves have the coldest ends. I think that's just how it ends. As someone with a tactical mind, and I've really been waiting to do this with you, to ask you, it's like when we're linked with strikers, Vlahovic, Ollie Watkins, Jonathan David, Isaac. I know strikers are going to have different pros and cons, but I'm trying to find a medium. What sort of profile? Now, I think we want someone that can drop deep, that can do what Aubameyang and Laka, if we fuse them together, could do. But what are you making of the next striker? Because Lacazette and Aubameyang both had shortcomings that got the best out of them. But I do think for a while we tried to find balance between both of them, and it didn't work. So if you could just guess, like, what are the sort of profile you're looking for, or you think the club's looking for a striker beyond the obvious?
Well, I think that the profile that Arteta wants is more in the Aubameyang style of forward than more in the Lacazette style of forward than the Aubameyang style of forward. I think he just wants someone in the Lacazette ilk who's a goal scorer. So I'm looking around and I'm thinking, obviously in the Premier League, Calvert-Lewin fits that sort of, like somebody who's tall and strong, who can hold the ball up, who's a presence in the box and scores goals. So he would be one, I think, who would fit the profile. Now, the fact that I haven't seen a lot of Isaac, actually. You might have seen more of him than me. So
he's a bit lightweight, man, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
I like him, but he struggles.
I don't know whether he fits that profile entirely. Apparently, they tell me he does a lot of good work outside the box, but
he does. But the goals.
I mean, Jonathan David is looking like the guy who plays for Lille, and he's doing well for Canada, isn't he, in the internationals at the moment? He scored a fantastic goal I saw on social media. But I think that in answer to your question, Vlahovic would have been perfect, wouldn't he? He's the top. But you're not gonna, if you look around in Europe, there's very few strikers, top
That
quality
provide value for
strikers,
money, yeah.
value for money strikers. And so, like, obviously, Haaland's going to be the one all the top clubs are going to be sort of like bartering over in the summer, and he'll go to whoever he wants at the top clubs, And I think Vlahovic would have been the number 2 choice. That's why, Arsenal, I think, tried to get him now before he became available in the summer. But outside of that, I don't, then you're looking down the line of your Isaacs and your Davies and all those sort of things, all those sort of players. But there's very few players around, I think, of quality in that number 9 type striker. And I think football, my view is football's evolving on a bit now. If you look at the Premier League now, you don't see the main strikers scoring all the goals. It's almost like the wide forwards. Yeah, like your Salahs and your Manes
and that. Yep,
Sterling. I mean, Man City don't play with a striker, do they? So I think football's slightly evolving away from, certainly in the Premier League, away from a striker. But for Arsenal, I think the way Arteta wants to play, he wants to have a focal point, a number 9 who's going to bring the best out of wide players like Saka and Martinelli, who can run in behind.
Somewhat, yeah.
But he wants a striker, I think, who's going to offer us something in the box that Lacazette doesn't. So for me, I think Calvert-Lewin is the closest in the Premier League to probably what he wants, but I don't think we're going to get him. Certainly now not with Lampard going to Everton, because I can see Lampard not wanting to sell him, and Everton even starting to improve with Lampard going in there. He already made 1 or 2 astute.
Managerial bounce as well.
Yeah, I'm not a massive Dele Alli fan, but Van Beek, I like him, and he's finally going to get a chance to show what he can do. So, and I think Lampard will attract players. There's no doubt about that as well. So Everton will get some good signings over the line. So just coming back to your question, I think they've got to look around Europe for a player that best suits that sort of fit, that fits in with the style of play that Arteta wants to play, because that's what Arteta wants. He wants to mould his team into the style of play, and his style of play clearly is play out from the back, play through the thirds, having a centre forward and hold the ball up, and players who can play off a centre forward. That's what he likes, rather than sort of like playing balls in behind for strikers to run on through, which is more Aubameyang's strength. So, counter-attacking sort of style. I know we've played counter-attack over the years, sometimes under Arteta, but I think he's changing the way that he coaches now, the way we play out from the back, and the way we build.
He's trying to be on the front footed a lot more.
Yeah, trying to be on the front foot. Yeah. So I think he'll want a player in that mould I talked about, who's going to be able to link the play and bring these young players into the game so they can do their stuff in and around the box. So I think that's what he's looking for. Who we get, I don't, remains to be seen.
I mean, that's one thing I like about Arteta, in that whether it's a direct consequence or it's coincidental, I think he's looked to spread the goals around. Obviously, we hope Martinelli, Saka, these guys can keep scoring, because there's not too many goal scorers historically. But that's where I'm at with Arsenal, because I actually think we need 4 players in as in 2 minimum, as in 2 centre mids and 2 strikers. Now you get your plan A, the guy that's going to play in both positions week in, week out, and squad depth. And I also feel, as much as me and you say there's no strikers and things, and I think there's a lack of quality. The very fact of, Chelsea, massive outlay on Lukaku, clearly not someone statistically that's going to help them. That kind of confirms it. But at the same time, we are football fans. Surely they're scouts, in the same way you identified Lukonga. I kind of want you, maybe not necessarily as that striker to lead the line, but can you get a sort of project player? Because I feel we do need 2 strikers. I feel in line with mentioning Premier League players, someone with Ivan Toney's skill set in our squad would be amazing. Now, the problem obviously is with Toney, they're probably going to tell you 50 million, and again, I don't think it's worth it. There's no real goals in that. I just feel, I don't know, I feel fans are victim of it as well. I don't really feel fans like depth, because I remember when it came to Smith Rowe, we can't sign Odegaard, we've got Smith Rowe. But I just feel we need different options, and I feel I would like Lacazette's strengths replaced, in the same way I would like Aubameyang's main strength, which is just someone that is going to score week in, week out, and the somewhat confidence that gives us as fans and whatnot. Do you think there's ever an avenue where we could potentially go for a wide forward, like you said, if there was a Salah or an Alexis Sanchez, and maybe just to do something along those lines and try and fix something in house?
I think the wide forward positions were pretty much stocked in the wide forward positions. I think so. Like Saka, Martinelli, Smith Rowe can play out there as well on the left, and of course we still got Nicola Pepe. And interesting to
Forgotten
see
man.
how we've forgotten about Pepe. He's almost like the forgotten man.
Yeah,
He's
what do you make of the Pepe stuff? I
well,
completely forgot to ask you about it.
well. I think there could be a route for him back into the team. So obviously Saka's taken that position he wants or he used to play on the right hand side. But there could be a route back in the team if someone gets injured or out of form. He could come back on the right or in the left. But why
Facts.
not then? Probably is there an option to play him up front? I think it's something that certainly can be
Would you do
explored.
it?
Not initially. I think Lacazette is obviously the person who I think will play in that role because that's what's worked all season.
Facts.
But could we possibly use him and bring him on sometimes? And you talk about a plan B. Well, how about bringing him off the bench to play in a two up top
Especially
with?
because he's unpredictable as well. That
Yeah,
could
and
change,
also,
it could help us.
and the other thing is where I think we always, because we're not really a counter-attacking team, if he was to come on off the bench, if we were to be leading in games and teams would be sort of like pushing forward against us to try and get back in the game and leaving more gaps, he's someone who could come off the bench and he's really good in transition. He's got the pace to run from midfield
The game will be open
and with the
naturally as
ball at
well.
his feet. We always think of him as someone who hugs the touchline and gets the ball wide, and we see him on that side. But at Lille, he was a tremendous player in a counter-attacking team, running with the ball from deep, or even with an overlapping fullback coming inside and hitting shots away with his left foot, which he has shown signs of even at Arsenal being able to do that. He's that cut final he scored. I know it was offside, but it was a brilliant
What a
strike.
goal that was, initially,
yeah, and he has scored some great goals with his left foot. He put him in a goal-scoring position in the box, and he puts the ball in the net. He's got an eye for goal, so he's somebody who could possibly we could use him up front in some way, even if he comes off the bench. If we were to use him as a plan B, it's an option for Arteta. So I've got what your original question was. You were talking about wide players, weren't you? Well, he's a wide player, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I think we're well stocked in the wide areas. If a good player became available and Arteta wanted to strengthen the squad, you could do that because if you can afford to, I think we need to spend our money in the areas of the team that we need strengthening. And I think you're bang on with your assessment. Central midfield and strikers is where we need to strengthen. So we've left ourselves in a position now. Have we been able to get a forward in this window? We'd only have to do one signing in the summer, but now we're going to have to do one really top quality signing, so 60 million plus or whatever, and then bring in someone else, not about 30, 40 million. I think we're going to have to spend whatever budget they got, most of the budget on strikers this summer. They've left themselves in that position now. They would need two strikers this summer. So, but if there's a wide forward who can play, because sometimes wide forwards can play down the middle as well. If there's somebody who, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head who could possibly play as an attacker, as a striker, why not? If he could combine both roles.
Facts, man. Who would you say is your player of the month? I asked you because somebody asked me on my last stream and I was scratching my head. I was thinking Odegaard. I don't know, man. Do we really have the form for anyone to get that?
Wow. It's not Granit Xhaka.
no surprises there, Graham. Man.
Well, Saka scored the only goal of the month. I think Odegaard. Who did the club give it to? Did they?
I don't know. I've been so disinterested. I don't care what they say. I don't know.
I think Odegaard had a good performance in the second leg against Liverpool. Played well against Man City. Saka was good in two of those games. Off the top of my head, I'm struggling. Gunnosaurus. Gunnosaurus. Give it a Gunnosaurus. Did you see? Joke. As we're in a jokey frame of mind here, did you see that picture that they put on social media of Arsenal's new team photo of the second half of the season? They had the benches up and just after benches were empty, weren't they?
I mean, it's almost unrecognizable, man. I think when Saka went to Dubai or when Pepe finished AFCON and went over there, he probably didn't recognize half of his colleagues.
Yeah, you got to remember, we are getting these players back from AFCON, aren't we? Just coming back to the AUBAMEYANG is an interesting stat that AUBAMEYANG was Wenger's last ever signing, wasn't he?
It's crazy. It's crazy, and what a like last gift that was, and that's something I always wonder. I do look at when Wenger was here, players did take the piss, but and they Aubameyang probably would have still done the same thing. But I do wonder if would Saliba be on loan? Would Guendouzi of this have happened? Would Ainsley be his future be subject to speculation? Would Aubameyang ever have had these issues? Because the closest I can remember in Wenger's later years was the whole Alexis being dropped in the Liverpool game, and he still kind of used him. I think that's where Arteta. He probably is going to have to learn to be more diplomatic. If so, not I hear at another club because he won't have it all.
Do you know what? I think we're looking at that Alexis thing now. I think there's a slight difference. If the player doesn't want to be at the club, and what I mean by that is that they made it clear they want to leave. I know the difference. I know if they're running down their contract, they also don't want to be at the club when their contract runs down. But Alexis made it quite clear he wanted to leave, and he was almost like gone to Man City. So when you have a player in the dressing room like that, it does divide the dressing room somewhat. You have to be.
He did hate Alexis, in my opinion. Like, barely got any goodbyes. Like, hated him.
Yeah, so you have to be careful about that. It can cause friction in the dressing room if you keep players who don't want to play for the club for too long. They're on the brink of. They've said they want to leave. So it's a difficult one. What was your question again? I've lost track there.
Player of the month.
Player of the month.
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't know. I don't think there's anyone. I look around the team at the moment. Over the last month, we've obviously had a lot of problems with players who've been struggling with fitness, with COVID. Ramsdale's gone slightly off, had his little dip.
His positioning at times has been a bit suspect, if I'm honest.
Yeah. You know what? The other thing is when Martinelli was called out by Klopp, he actually said, didn't he, you've got a real player there, didn't he? It was almost like you think Klopp sort of like position himself to go in and make a bid. And
him and Saka are definitely going to be of interest to them. 100%.
I think Martinelli, for me, had a reasonably good month in the games I see him in. And that's a very low bar. But I just want to make that point that I think, I agree with the comment there. I think Saka's probably the only one who could probably have it.
The bars on the floor, like you said, there's not competition.
And the thing is, while we're talking about Bukayo Saka, I think the important thing is that you've got to recognise, and the club need to recognise, and they're going to try and tie Saka down on the deal this summer. It's very important that we get the players in to strengthen this club because people like Saka, Smith Rowe, even Martinelli, they'll be looking at their situation thinking, do you know what?
Facts.
If this club is not going forward and I'm not going to win any trophies, I'm going to look elsewhere. And when Klopp comes knocking, they'll be interested. I mean, they're not all going to be like Harry Kane, are they? Remain at Tottenham winning nothing.
If any, I definitely think Martinelli's not going to be that. I've braced myself for him and Gabriel to move to one of the big Spanish teams, and that's what scares me. I feel that's where the club, in the same way Ramsdale goes off to England duty and Ben White, and they're asking Saka what Arsenal's like. Saka must be saying, what's Grealish, what's City like, what's being in the Champions League like? He went to Aston Villa, and that's the scary thing. The project can only be so far. I think right now, the young players you said, more so the two English ones, they're very naive. It's easy to say Arsenal for life when I'm a 20-year-old making my inroads. Smith Rowe's made great progress. This time last year, he was just about a Premier League footballer. When you're in your mid-20s or you finally, the pennies drop that I'm a Premier League footballer, as you said, you start to look at it differently. And I still think they're kind of wowed by Arteta and how he improves them. But soon you're going to say, Pep can take me to the next level. I need to win. It's very different when you're 26, 27, 28. You've only got one career, and I don't want to waste these lot. Even if they are to go off and do other things and move, let's use their peak properly. That's why maybe I feel I'm more harsh on our senior players and really what Arteta is doing with the senior players, because I just feel when you go through all of our senior players, there's somewhat a stain against their name. Xhaka, we all know. Partey, inconsistent. Lacazette, not really of the level. Aubameyang's gone, but we know Aubameyang. And then you've got Cedric, Marie, etc. It's like, what experienced players do I believe in? That's why I say, for me, in a young squad of an average age of 23, the experienced players I rely on are Kieran Tierney, Tomiyasu, Ramsdale, beyond the obvious, really, because the others are really hot and cold. I don't really know what I'm getting with them, if I'm honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I think interesting thing I was thinking about the other day is that the captaincy issue, actually, because the group, really, because I know the problem we've had is, you talked about senior players and young players. The senior players haven't really stepped up, have they? If you think about the leadership group, Aubameyang's gone. Lacazette is in that group, but he hasn't exactly been putting up trees. Xhaka is obviously in that group. Leno's going.
I
He'll be
forgot
gone.
about Leno completely.
Yeah. So you think about that's 4. I'm trying to think who the other guy is in that group at the
I
moment.
think Holding, but
Thomas Partey. So
Partey as well.
Partey's been in. That was a fantastic performance against Man City, by the way. But then he's back to normal, getting sent off in the next game. So
after we waffled about him returning as well.
So I think in terms of where we are in these young players next season, one of them's I think going to come out the shadows to be the next captain, and for me, Odegaard's obviously is someone I think is in the running, and possibly Ben White is someone I think who's highly regarded as well. So I think the captaincy will come from one of those 2 players for next season.
What have you made of Ben White?
I think
jury's still out.
Yeah, I think so. I think that certainly. I think he's been okay. To be fair, I mean, I think that in the last game against Burnley, when we see him moved out to right back, we saw what we missed when he didn't play in the middle. Yeah. So the way he plays, offers us in possession, builds our play is part of the plus side of his game. He understands when to bring the ball out, when to pass it, and how he that side of the game he's really good at. I think he's a bit rash sometimes the way he dives in, like he did it at Leeds, so he go away that penalty. I think sometimes players have run past him a bit easy. I can think of 1 or 2 goals where he's allowed players to run past him.
He hasn't made much, yeah.
But I still think and people questioned him in the air, but I've seen it, games where he's been okay in the air. I think that, I'd say the jury's all out, but I think he's certainly, I think, has improved us in the fact that it's him and Gabriel as a 2, the way they've combined.
Consistent 2 as well.
Consistency, yeah, as a 2. And I think, they complement each other very well, So, so I think he's been okay. The jury's still out, but I think there'll be encouraging signs, and I think that partnership is really good. So, certainly he's good on the ball and what he offers us. I think his positioning is okay as well. And also he's got recovery pace. But I still want him to see him defend. If I'm being critical, I think some of the, he's rash at times. It worries me a little bit, the way he dives in sometimes. I don't like to see that. But I have to say, when he moved to right back against Burnley, I immediately, when I see Holding now, you saw what we lost. So you have to say, really has improved us, don't you? What he offers us on the ball. So, yeah, but I still think he can get better. But this is his first season, isn't it? So I think overall the defence that he's put together this year, Arteta, that back 5 now, at least is the right base now moving forward. If they're all fit, Tomiyasu at right back has been outstanding. Tierney is obviously left back, and the 2 centre halves and the goalkeeper. I think they've done good recruitment there. I think where they failed really was in, as you pointed out yourself, in centre mid, and we've known for a start that we had to find a striker. So, and that's I think what they need to do in the summer.
I mean, that's where I'm at as well. Obviously we're not Man City, and I'm not expecting us to be, but I thought that I would have a lot more leeway if, like you said, rightly so, you can see the defensive third, what we're trying to do. I can't see it really in the middle third. I see little bits and pieces until there's a midfielder I don't get. And I think we've released some shackles in the final third, but it's not all the way there yet. It's very, quite rigid, really, and quite predictable. And I think Arteta's done well for what he can, but I do think that's not going to get better until there's a midfielder. So if it was in a place where you could see we just need a striker, then fair play. I'm a bit baffled as to I'm a bit harsh on Edu and Arteta, because by trades, if you were tradesmen, you are midfielders. So I definitely hear you on that. And again, we definitely need to move for a striker. I like the signing of Ben White, because obviously the only reason I say the jury's still out is purely because he costs 50 million. You just want to see a bit more. I think he's good in the air. I think he's a defo bigger leader than credit's given, and I saw that from preseason. I think statistically, again, I think it highlights the need for a midfielder, but in terms of progressive passes and things like that, him and Gabriel are probably the highest scoring players at Arsenal, and I think that kind of ties into why we bought him, of being, as much as we defenders should be able to defend. It's all about ball playing. So I think Ben White's done that, and I'm keen to see Saliba next year come and try and mess up that great partnership that's being developed in terms of depth. What have you made of Saliba and what could happen? Because every week he's staying, he's going, he's staying, he's going.
Well, to be honest, I regret he isn't here. We've got to be careful because other clubs are starting to circle around him. I think I'm pretty sure I saw a Real Madrid link that they're sort of
Milan boys.
Yeah, so you just got to be careful. What I worry about is Arteta doesn't fancy him. I just can't get my head around that. If he's fancied Holding and Marie, why would he
Gave
not
Mustafi
fancy?
a chance when he initially got the job as well, really.
Yeah. And the danger is we're going to lose him, aren't we? He's got to come back next year, and he's got to come back and sort of like be challenging to get in the team. And if he can't get in a 2, we could play him in a 3. If we wanted to revert to 3, play 3 of them. White on the right side of a 3, Gabriel on the left, and him in the middle. So I think, and also you can't expect White and Gabriel to play the whole season. So there's going to be minutes for him. I want him to come back next year and start challenging for the first team and to make his mark at Arsenal. Because if it doesn't happen next year, I don't think it's going to happen, is it? And I'm worried that he's not going to come back, and I'm worried that deep down Arteta doesn't trust him for some reason. And I think if we had Saliba now, that would be a decent part of the defensive unit, so we wouldn't be so worried. And if we had Guendouzi now, albeit whatever went on,
so much, man.
Guendouzi, whatever people think of Guendouzi, he wore the badge, didn't he? He had a passion on the pitch, and
just needed to calm down a bit.
Yeah, just needed to calm down. He made his mistakes, a young guy, but no one can question his commitment and his passion on the pitch. And I think he's, when I've seen him, the bits of actions I've seen, he's sort of like looks as though he could offer something to the club, and I just think we gave up on something too early. If we have,
we're only getting 8 million for him, and to be fair, if you held on to him for another year, 1 year left in the summer, you could have got double that minimum, really. If I'm honest.
And I think if we'd had him, if you look at it, if you're going to bomb the midfielders out like Maitland-Niles, it's just a shame he's not there because he could have offered us something, I think.
Where you last question for you, Graham, would be, because you made me think about it. They almost forgotten men, the Guendouzi's, Torreiras, technically Ainsley. Even Marie? Do you see a future for any of them come the summer? Because I think no, but then I look back to when El Nene went Besiktas, we couldn't move him on, and he's still part of the furniture, really and truly now, isn't he?
Yeah. No, to be honest with you, I can't. There shouldn't be. I think they're players that we should be moving on. The problem is you can't move everyone out at once, and that's the problem he's got. And so you move out the ones you can, and then you slowly but surely move out the rest. So they will come back. I don't know how much game time they're going to get. I don't think Murray is good enough. I don't think.
Thank you. Same.
El Nene, he's okay, but we want better. If you want to be challenging for the top 4, and that's where. Because I can't think Arteta can carry on sort of like not delivering top 4. When you think about it, I know it's a different rebuild now since Emery, but Emery only had 2 years to get us back in the top 4, and he failed.
And he was more experienced, and they judged him
on more experience,
really.
and he went, didn't he? And I understood. They went for the experienced guy and gave him a 2-year mission to get us back in, and then the moment it didn't look like, he came very close the first year, and then it all fell apart in the second year. He lost the dressing room, to be fair. But Arteta's come in and has been given almost like luxury to sort of like 2 8th place finishes, and they'll justify
like a spoiled kid at times, really.
Yeah, they'll justify if he finishes 6th or 7th this year, won't they? But he can't carry on forever, can it? So he's got to get the players out and get the ones in. I think he's got rid of 16 players now in his time, so he's getting rid of them. Yeah, so they are going, but do I see any future for the ones he's loaned out? No, quite frankly. And I think that a lot of them need to be moved on as quickly as we can move them on.
And this is why I'm looking at Edu to earn his chops in the summer, because
Yeah.
obviously I'm not expecting you to do everything, but you know, you need to deal with Leno, Guendouzi, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, and any other players I've missed out. You obviously need to bring people in. How much of bringing in without letting go, we all know is a very delicate situation. Actually, my last question, because I think I think we'll end up 6th, maybe 7th, and I hope to be wrong. At this moment in time, you know, February, early February, you know, with everything that's been said, where do you see us finishing?
I think if I look at the way I think the table's going to finish now, I think that I still think Man City are going to win the league, even though Liverpool could technically win it. I still think City will win it. I think Liverpool comes second. I think Chelsea will finish third. I've got this sneaky feeling Man United are going to get their act together now and finish fourth.
Exactly mine.
And that's going to be the top four. So then I look at us really to get in the next two positions. Who are we up against? There's Tottenham, West
London
Ham,
Derby.
and even Wolves. Wolves are there. You know, that Wolves game is now massive. We got them 6-pointer Thursday week. We can't afford to lose that. You know. I look at the next 4 games, and we need, in my mind, we need to win the 3. You know, I think we've got Leicester at home, Brentford at home, and Watford away. We've got to win those games, all right. And if we can get a point at Wolves, you know, not lose at Wolves, then that sets us up well, you know, moving forward. So just going back to where we're talking about where Arsenal are going to finish. I think we should finish 5th. That's what I think.
I hope we should. I hope we
do. I hope we finish 5th. You know, but the problem is now we've left ourselves with a massive risk with injuries, with a light squad, and these young players will be under pressure in the running. They've never experienced that before. So are they up to that pressure? We'll find out, won't we? So and you could see that someone like Conte, who's got the experience at Tottenham, could get them that 5th place. You know, and so I think I want us. You know, in my mind, we should finish 5th from where we were. We could end up 6th, but if we have injuries and we have players form drops and we can't, you know, we haven't got the ability to sort of rotate too much because we've left ourselves light, we could even end up, you know, dropping even further down. You know, it's not beyond the bounds of impossibility that say if Tottenham was to finish 5th and you know we imploded a bit in the running. You know, West Ham are still there. They've got the disadvantage of there are lots of competition, so we're a smaller squad, struggling with the demands of that 3 games a week. So we should finish above them. There's no excuse. Wolves are up there, I think. I'm just trying to think who could come from the pack. Off the top of my head, I think Leicester you always expect to be up there, but they haven't been at the races this year. So I've got to name myself down. I think that I want us to finish 5th. You know, well, obviously I want us to finish 4th, but I don't see us finishing 4th. I want us to finish 5th because that's, I think, where we should be. I've got this funny feeling we're going to finish 6th.
That's where I'm like that as well. I thought, you know, we could fight for 5th, but I just think something might go our way. The only reason I say 5th, 6th is because I can't convince. I mean, we can pick. I think the same way with you. United would overtake us. I think Chelsea are better than us. Liverpool are better than us. City are better than us. So it's a bit of a write-off. I can't convincingly say that we're better than Spurs. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, we're better than West Ham. We're better than Wolves. I think we're all in amongst it's like a fatal 4-way. We're all part of this fight, and everyone should be believing they can do it on the over the others. And I feel it might come down to experience. We've got a youthful naive manager with youthful naive players. You got David Moyes, who's been around the block. Conte been around the block. You know, Wolves, they're a bit of an unknown entity in that nobody knows what to expect. They're just quietly going about their business. We've kind of got a target on our backs, and like you said earlier, not too many of these young players might have been involved in a pressurized sort of period where it's just about results now. If we can have quality performances, etc., that's fine, but we just need to get the job done, really and truly.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a great point that you just put on the screen there. Is it Moharan 123? Have I said that right?
Yeah, is it the Lacazette one? Or
he makes a really good point there. This is where, I mean, to be fair, Laka has been a leader for the youngsters on the pitch this season. You know, and I think this is where whatever we think of his goal scoring, we really need him to be a leader on the pitch now for these young players for the rest of the season to help them in these moments when we talk about these pressure moments. You know, so he's going to be the captain, isn't he, for the rest of the season? I would have thought if he's fit.
And to be honest,
that's a great point he makes. This really is the time for him to step up and lead the youngsters. And they're going to need a guiding hand, because, as I said, I don't think they've ever been in this position before, where they're sort of like challenging for this sort of like
A level
to
of
think
expectation,
the level of
realistic.
expectancy. Yeah, the level of expectancy is there, and the pressure's going to be on now, because this is the business end of the season. So it'd be great if Laka could, see out his contract by sort of leading the youngsters, and they achieve what they should achieve. And I don't think top four is totally done. I still
It's
think we've
not
got a
enough,
chance.
definitely not.
Definitely got a chance. And the fixtures are at the moment, those next four fixtures. If we were to really do well in those four fixtures, you get to 25 games and you're thereabouts. Tottenham have got a lot of difficult away games to go against the top clubs, so it's not beyond the bounds of impossibility. Man United have still got some. I look at Man United's fixtures in March, as well as that Atletico Madrid Champions League uh, tie they've got. They've got some really difficult fixtures in March. That's where their season could implode, or they could lose a lot of ground. So, and we've had our bad month, so
I
let's
hope
just
that's the end of it. I
let's
hope
hope
so.
that we've had our bad month now, and we were to get a good result against Wolves, that would set us up for those next three fixtures. And to be honest with you, we have done something this year we weren't doing last year. That is take the Burnley one out of the equation, but we have been beating the teams we expected to beat. It's only against the really top clubs we've been struggling.
Yeah.
So
I'd say only Brighton, Palace at home, and the one you just said in Burnley. You can't win them only the other times. You'd say.
Yeah,
We need to
but
do a
the
bit
only
more.
thing that worries you is the goals, isn't it? We haven't got. We're going into the rest of the season where, albeit up until recently, Aubameyang hadn't been in the team since December the 6th, and we had been winning games, but
And scoring hella goals, yeah, facts.
we had been scoring goals. But it's always put a lot of pressure on Saka and Smith Rowe and Martinelli, and so time will tell, mate. But I think as I say, I think that if we don't get European football, I think the pressure on Arteta is going to be immense,
It's going to be
particularly from where
immense.
we were, because the
There's nothing to justify, nothing.
expectancy level has been raised by the fact that we've been in that top four, in and around that top four, after, let's face it, a really horrendous start where we lost our first three. And also the fact now that they hadn't done the business in this window. Whatever you think, people are going to judge. If we don't make it, that's going to be
This is going to be the period we look back on and say is
that's
where's
going
won
to
and loss.
and people are going to say we didn't get top four because we didn't do the business in January.
And I don't have any defense for it, because at the same time, I do think when it comes to Arsenal, I know there's a lot of agendas, but I just feel you can praise to the high heavens. If you comment anything that might be just not that, you're seen as negative, and I feel a lot of that is with Arteta. My last question for you, again, just based off that, what would you say is a points tally we need to kind of target then, or a rough points tally to have in mind then?
I'm just trying to think. What are we on at the moment, mate? How many points are we on at the moment after 21 games? Let me just get it up. Just bear with me. It's 70 normally. Is 70 normally the benchmark?
Normally, that's what I was looking at a period, but I don't know if the variables have now shifted.
So at the moment,
we got 37. We got 36. Sorry,
we are on 36 points after 21 games. 21 games.
Yeah,
so we've got 17 left. Yeah, I think 70. We need 70 points. That's what I think. That's to get top two.
That's a big arcs, man. Big
That's
arcs.
that's 2 points a game. That's what you need to get top four, Deluded. 2 points a game.
That's the benchmark. That's what you have to do. Really.
So I think that's what you're going to need. I think to get top four, 70.
I mean, you said it there, man. I'm looking at it, and I'm actually looking at our fixtures. It's I'm just hoping people relish it, whether players have gone or come in. People that are in our squad have said, you know what, I've got an opportunity. Which players are self-aware. Nketiah, Lacazette, they probably know they're not cut up to task, and other players, the young players, know that they're in a good position. I hope people just relish it and stand up to be counted, because I just want to see a bit of fearlessness. What's the worst they could say? That we bottled it, that we finished 7th, 8th. We've been attached to Vela the last 18 months, so there should be a bit of a fearless element in that. You already know what's going to be written, so just try your hardest to make sure that isn't the case. Really, that's just it for me, man. Really.
Yeah, we've had I think two 8th place finishes in the league is not good enough for a club like Arsenal Football Club. It's not. It's unacceptable 8th place, so I think that the club want to see progress this year, because they have invested £129 million in the team this year. 200 million Arteta's had in 2 years.
It's a
So
results-driven
it's a
business,
lot.
whatever you
He's had
say.
a lot of money, you know. So he had more money than Emery ever had, didn't he? So
And he's a manager, not a head coach, a manager. So you've got more
yeah, and they
responsibility.
gave him, as you said, as a great point you make. They've now moved him from coach to manager, so he's got a massive say in everything. So I think he has to deliver a top six finish, really, for parity, you know. And
Facts.
you know, I think we still hope. You know, I think top four's still there if we were to sort of like go on another run like we've had. You know, in
Pray to God
December
we
onwards
do.
up to you know, it's there to be all to be played for. But I think the reality is, mate, I think we'll be looking at, you know, the top six. I think is more realistic. As long as we get back into Europe, I think they can say that it's been a good season. It hasn't been a great season because you know we got to the Carabao Cup semi-final. I think the fact that we went out in the third round to Nottingham Forest,
Again,
uh,
another embarrassing exit. You know,
yeah,
Southampton last year.
and that's why January is looking on paper not to be great because you know when you put in a performance like that and you go out the FA Cup the first hurdle, you know it's sort of like
What are you doing?
it undermines everything that you're trying to do as a football club. You know to take a championship team lightly and go out like that, and just
Embarrassing.
so disappointing. You know, so but you know, as I say, I think he'll be judged at the end of the season. If he gets us back into Europe, that'll be a small step, and they'll turn around and say it's been a good season. It hasn't been a great season, but you know, but I think the summer now, the business in the summer will be crucial.
And that's it. And where you at with, you know, I know I keep saying last question, but it kind of ties in. where you at with a new contract then? Like, you know, obviously top six is what it is, but there's talk of a new deal. It seems like the bar's on the
Yeah.
floor. I don't think you should necessarily get one for top six because you went out of Europe. If you got Champions League, then all right, you're the first manager post Wenger to do it. You got a foot to stand, and I think that should go into the season. But saying that, you know, would players want to sign if they don't know what's going on with the gaffer?
Well, the simple answer is he shouldn't get a new contract. And the reason why that came about was because there was talk about Pep retiring or going in after the next season, and Man City were being linked, saying he was being linked with Man
So
City,
we're getting
wasn't he?
scared.
Yeah, so Arsenal got scared, and there was all this. Well, no, I'm not saying Arsenal got scared, but that's why it all came about. In my eyes, I don't think he should get a new contract until he deserves a new contract, and I don't think he deserves a new contract at the moment. He's got to. He gets a top four. You know, he'd have more of an argument for a new contract, wouldn't he?
And that's my
But
thing. It's like you don't praise a manager for having a style of play. You should have that anyways. And also, I feel Arteta gets, as much as there's inherited problems, I feel a lot of wrongs that he has written, people praise him for doing that. It's like, come on now, like you never had a style of play. And there was obviously circumstantial issues, but you weren't playing consistent centre backs. You weren't playing consistent midfielders. You were playing rubbish wingers. You stopped doing all of that, had more consistency, had a bit more about you, stopped being reactive to who you're playing. You're seeing a bit of different results. So as much as I admire him for that, it only goes so far, really. I think there's a lot of overcompensating. As much as there's stuff to criticize and admire about Arteta, I feel there's a lot of inflated stuff on both sides, and it's really a lack of balance. And the bar's on the floor. I think they'll give Arteta a new deal purely because I think other managers, you know, just like this window gone, I think other managers would make sure Aubameyang either stays or you bring someone in. I think he's kind of okay because he's not gonna pressure the board too much, and they're not gonna put too much pressure on him, so he can do his experience here and whatnot. I don't really feel there's an expectation. I know he's building the culture, which I admire him for, but if you're a manager, you should do that. You don't praise Conte for bringing in a culture or Pep. That's the minimums of what they're coming in for. You need that. You know, the Sunday League as well. Surely. It's
yeah,
crazy.
I mean, I think obviously you mentioned Conte there. Conte is when you've done what managers like him, he's an elite manager.
Of course.
So he's respected for that. That puts him ahead of Arteta. You know, all Arteta has done really is, you know, albeit he worked under Pep, but he's won an FA Cup. So it's a different argument with Arteta. He's got to prove himself, and you know, I'm a firm believer that you have to achieve things before you are absolutely bang on. You should have a culture of play. He's done some great things. He's done some great coaching, the way we play out, the way we press. There's lots of great things he's done, the way we set up and we play football now. But that shouldn't be enough just to get him a new contract. It's all
That's
about
the minimum.
results. Football is results business. I do think these owners have literally bought into him, though. They're giving him the money. and I think it'll
Good
take a
relationship
lot
with
for
them
them.
as well.
It'll take a lot for them to want to release him. You know, so it's going to have to be constant failure, not achieving their targets before they get rid of him. But to get a new contract, going back to the question, is he's got to do something that earns that new contract, not just give it to him to ward off other people coming in to take him away, because that's not a reason why you should be giving a guy a new contract. And for me, he's got to achieve something. I think top four. If he does that, I could at least sort of like buy into it a bit more. You know, he's got us back into the Champions League, which is
Give
what we
him his
want.
dues. I say you can have one.
Yeah, give him his due. But if he
Perfect.
doesn't get that, I think the jury's still out, and he's got to prove himself next season. And that's what I think.
Facts, man. Graham, this has been fantastic. Is there any other bits and pieces of content people can look out for? I know you're on AFTV. I know you're on a couple of other channels.
Yeah, I'm sort of. I've got to be honest. I mean, I haven't done that much on AFTV lately because there haven't been many fixtures. You know, so
Of course.
yeah. So obviously, I'm back on same old Arsenal now. With Craig's got the channel back up running again. So
Channel that is.
yeah,
Subscribe,
so
people.
yeah, so you got like Lee Judges on there, Dan Potts, Harry Samu, who's got his own channel, Chronicles of a Gooner. You know,
Subscribe to that